9 out of 10 prospective adopters say the cost of living crisis is affecting their decisions about adoption. That's according to Adoption UK.
They've done a survey and the charity is calling for an urgent review in that survey of financial support for adopters and adoptees, and indeed for lifelong support for people who've been adopted.
Well, let's talk to Adoption UK's CEO, Emily Frith, who joins us now. It's really good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
I mean, clearly, this is an area that needs to be looked at in a very sensitive way and actually funded in a way which is going to be for the benefit of those people who have been adopted.
Yeah.
But we're in a time where we haven't got any money. I mean, this is the fundamental problem, isn't it?
But I think we have to think about how we're spending the money that we have. And if families adopt, then that's hopefully giving a child a lifelong sort of support, loving relationships. I think it's really important to not think about adoption as a sort of happy ending. It's really important that we support children throughout their lives and into adulthood, because adoption often follows really, really difficult starts in life, and children will need support in school and with their health as they grow up, and adopted adults need support too, because they need support with contact with birth family, and they need support with their mental health potentially as they go into adulthood. So it's really important to think about adoption as a kind of lifelong journey.
I was talking to friends of mine who are adopting a second child, and they're going for someone who is sort of 7 or 8 years old to join the son they have, who is now 10 or 11 years old, that they adopted as a baby. I mean, are you finding it more difficult to actually help families that take older children than when they take someone who is just a newborn practically, or someone who is just sort of a little toddler of 1 or 2 years old?
I think older children and sibling groups often wait longer to find an adoptive family, but it's amazing when they can find a family, but they do need that extra support because of the experiences they will have had as they grow up. They may have had to go through different foster carers. They will have had a lot more potential trauma in their early years. So it's really important that they get that health support and that support in school as they grow up, so they can have every chance to have a good future.
There may be people watching who say, why is lifelong support needed? I mean, certainly a couple I know who have adopted, they've got 2 children now, and they were both adopted when they were sort of, toddlers. Now, and they're being brought up in a wonderful, happy home. Are they likely to still need support when they get older? And is it all about coming to terms with actually where they are originally from?
I think the sort of impact adoption can change as someone gets older. So, when you go to the doctors, maybe even in your 50s, and you get asked about your sort of family history, of medical history, that can maybe trigger some feelings about, that where you come from, your background, your contact with family. So I think it's really important to think about adoption as a lifelong thing, and that we can provide support for people even into adulthood and their older years, because it may be that it takes a long time for these feelings to surface.
And some of the greatest emotional support is needed very often, I think, when families have been split up, haven't they? And it's very rare, I think, for you to get people who will adopt and take an entire family or 2 or 3 children. And those children then are separated. They've lost their parents, and they've lost now the siblings, the only people with whom they have any kind of emotional connection. So when they get older and they discover, in fact, that they probably have a brother or a sister somewhere, the emotional impact it must have on them of having been separated, and perhaps only discovering when they're in their 20s that there is a sibling somewhere. That must be a huge problem for them.
Absolutely huge, and I think it's really important that we think about contact for adoptive families with birth relations, and think about that really carefully and provide the right support, especially with social media nowadays. Sometimes contact can come out of the blue, and I think we need to really support people as they grow up with that contact, and try and keep siblings together when we can. But the cost of living crisis has an impact on that, because adopters might not be able to take more than 1 child, and it has an impact on travelling to see family as well, if people can't afford the petrol or the bus fare.